have a conversation with, his name's Hunter, if you want me to, he's Hunter Warner, he's a CT student. What's your major? I wanted to...
Hi, everybody. My name is Hunter Warner. I'm a broadcast journalism major here at Columbia College Chicago. I also major in marketing, and also I'm a content creator online. I run a handful of podcasts, and I also upload content on YouTube.
I feel like it really sort of plays a part in sort of how a lot of students in Columbia sort of go about their day. It's what I sort of believe. Sort of goes into ideas of identity, sort of changing, your life's going through, and sort of how you change, how you sort of go through changes in college, and how that, how that comes through in certain aspects. And Shi Tiesheng touches on that a lot in his writings, especially in the article Hiatus of Illness and its fragments, or the different parts of himself. So I wanted to, ask this sort of question, sort of, we can just have a spitball conversation more. I know one of the articles you told me before we started recording was the Section 6.
Yeah.
Sort of that spoke to you. I want to get more of your interpretation on what you think that was about.
So first and foremost, I haven't heard of this guy before. And when I first opened up the article, it was very something that I was unexpecting to sort of see, right? Because when you first open up the article, you see this dude sitting in a wheelchair, chain smoking, right? Which is first of all, right off the bat, the article sort of talks about sort of his self-deprecating humor. And we get that throughout the article, and we specifically get that in number 6, which, I'll talk about in just a second. But just his image alone kind of got me entranced, right? Just sort of looking at how he's presenting himself and him talking about himself was super interesting to me. And particularly as I was reading through, I ran into number 6 and I read the first line. Hold on, I'm actually not suited to be a writer. I was thrown into it by faith. Now that to me is a super interesting quote, because that's sort of how I live my life, right? I don't necessarily believe that you can. I believe that to some regard we all sort of have our own faith and our own path, right? Obviously we have the decision of our own decisions. We're our own people, right? But not necessarily in the sense that in some regards faith plays a big role into that. I talk about that on my podcast a lot, right? But he talks about almost feeling uncomfortable in his own body, in the sense of not that he feels like he's a fraud in sort of his own industry, which is really ironic, right? When you're held in such high regard as he is, you necessarily don't expect somebody to be that I feel like a fraud. But it's really funny because we see that a lot in those sort of industries where, they will beat themselves down and they will say that I feel like a fraud and I feel like a husk in my own body. And it's super interesting to see. And especially when he compares and contrasts that with
Mm-hmm.
sort of the self-deprecating humor when it comes to his own disability. He does that in that own passage there that I keep goddamn quoting. But it's I chuckled. I thought it was so funny when he's because I don't have because I don't have legs to walk me places, right. I have a pen. And first of all, that's a really good quote. I like that, dude. I'm sure that's probably been used 1 billion times, right? But it's I've never heard that quote. I thought that it was a funny little quote, bro.
Yeah, he gets into a lot of sort of what inspired me. He spoke a lot to me as reading through the unit, going through sort of the semester. He was the most he got into certainly as he got into the later articles, especially in the one we're reading off of, which is Hiatus of Illness and the fragments, in the last sort of 43 and 42, section 40, 42 gets to ideas of metaphysics, consciousness, and it's so interesting to hear that from him. I feel that's really, he comes to a head where that's the only way he could ever get to that point of exploring that part of himself. So one of the things I want to sort of interlace with that is sort of the various aspects of how current events sort of, how do you feel that current events now sort of feel like the last topic we're doing, sort of how does current events sort of intertwine with Shi Tiesheng's readings now, with the sort of strike going on and how we are dealing with that aspect?
I think part of it is sort of, we can't control everything. And obviously what's going on right now with the administration and the part-time union has no sort of control over us, right? It cannot control us, and we cannot control it. It does not matter if we protest and strike or whatever, however we want to handle it, us the students, not the union or whoever that you choose to side with in this sort of dispute, it doesn't matter, right? Us as the students cannot make that decision. That's totally up to people that that we're paying every single semester on both sides, both the union and the administration, right? But I think what's important is to understand that there sort of always is some sort of positive light, right? Like, let's be honest here. This strike is going to end, right?
Yeah.
It may end tomorrow or it may end in 6 months. Either way, it's going to end. There's not going to be some magical thing that causes Columbia to close tomorrow and none of our credits transfer to Roosevelt, right? That's not going to happen. And I tell this, and it's like, I kind of tell that same thing. I also work as an Engage leader, and I tell that to freshmen all the time, right? Because it's like, and especially for these first generation, first semester students, it's a hell of a ride for them. And we've seen that, and it's really sad and it's really scary, especially in departments where they're seeing a lot of classes get cut, like in the dance field and stuff. It's like, where do you go from here, right? Because it's like, well, I just spent the first semester here, 6 weeks, I had no class. My parents are sort of telling me that this is a real conversation I've had with a student, where it's like, it feels like I'm heading in the wrong direction. My parents don't believe in it because, they're lower class and I'm here on a scholarship, and they are like, why aren't you going for business? But you believe in the dance, right?
Right.
That's such a challenging thing.
On it so like eloquently, and even though it may have been for another period, and it's like he felt it's so it so spoke to me in that profound way, and he spoke about like how we're in like certain aspects of our lives you can't really choose how that plays out, but I think one of the most like profound things I was left off with during the ending of it was like, he was the conduit for how all the different past aspects, all the different ways he could have went through life. He, as a writer, was the best conduit to explain all those paths that he thought of, or he thought he would have gone down, because he has the ability to speak it and to write it in that way. Yeah. So I just thank you for sitting down with me. I know this is very rough. I know when this comes out in a presentation, it's gonna be kind of rough. But I really wanted to sort of sit down with another student here. I really wanted to sort of talk about this, have this conversation, and just see where it would go. And it went in a pretty cool direction. So thank y'all for listening. I hope this comes out well, but I just wanted to share this with y'all. So thank you, and have a good rest of y'all day.